Previous administrations, and especially the radical left, has created an atmosphere and a culture where we question everything because they repeatedly lied to us over and over again to the point that we did not trust institutions, we did not trust government, politicians, and especially those that claim to be the experts. However, that has created another issue on the so-called right. Among those that claim to be conservatives that are nothing more or less than conservative reprobates, we have created a grifter's paradise so that they can use even Charlie Kirk's death as a way to push their narrative and their own agenda so they can get clickbait. Here on the Revealed Report, I'm your host, John Wilson, and we deal with those grifters today. Let's dive into it. Well, before I deal with the reprobate conservatives on the right that are trying to create a grifter's paradise, even at the expense of Charlie Kirk's death, as they try to use it to push their own narrative and agenda for clickbait and for likes, I want to talk about how yesterday there was a beautiful celebration of Charlie Kirk's life in Arizona. Many people turned out for that. President Donald Trump was there. Vice President J.D. Vance was there. Trump's cabinet members were there. Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, and Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, Republican senators and House of Representatives were there. It was an absolute beautiful thing. Elon Musk showed up. It was an absolute beautiful event that reminded me much of America's founding, where the pulpit, the preacher, and the patriot came together to try to defend not only our civil liberties, but our inalienable rights given to us by our Creator God, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. And it was so beautiful to once again see many of our politicians talking about God and naming his name, Jesus Christ. And some of them, like Marco Rubio and others, sounded like they were giving great sermons right behind that very podium. And so that reminds me of the founding of America. Even J.D. Vance even confessed that he's talked more about God, even naming him Jesus Christ, more in the last 2 weeks than he probably has in his whole time of holding political offices. It's a beautiful restoration of the fact that our nation was built on the principles of God, who gave us these freedoms, who gave us these rights, and that government is to defend these rights. But I will say the most beautiful speech given in the whole event, according to my personal opinion, and I'm sure many of you would agree, was Erica Kirk, the wife of Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated by a political opposition. And she gave a riveting speech, a heartfelt, heart grabbing speech that really just motivated us to continue on the fight for our liberties and freedoms. And when we say fight, not like the radical left who says they don't believe in guns, but has no problem picking them up and harming us. As a matter of fact, Erica Kirk in her speech really showed the dichotomy between the left and the right. You see, the radical left, when one of their heroes dies by injustice or even perceived injustice, because sometimes they believe it was injustice because they want to be the victim, and PMS, NBC, and CNN helps them be the victim by spreading lies to them, making them feel like there was an injustice when sometimes there was no injustice at all. But they retaliate with burning down cities, committing the most vicious acts of violence against their own fellow citizens, their own fellow Americans, and especially against police officers. They retaliate in violence, they retaliate in anger, they retaliate in trying to destroy us. But yet, Erica Kirk embodied the very nature and the spirit of the right when she began to quote the very words of the Lord Jesus Christ, who was on the cross, when he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And she even said, "I forgive the assassin." Now, that does not mean we don't want justice to be served, but on the right, us Bible believers do not take any pleasure in the perishing of the wicked, unlike the radical left. You see, the humanistic postmodern ideology has no mercy, but only wants to destroy their enemy because emulates Satan himself, who is to seek to kill, steal, and destroy. But we who believe in the Bible, who believe in these conservative principles, even though we want justice to be served so we can have a civilized society, we believe in extending mercy and grace. We want nobody to be lost. We want nobody to go to hell. And so even Erica Kirk, who I'm sure wants justice to be served, even said, I forgive the assassin. And I'm not a very crying type of person, but it's very difficult not to be moved on with tears when you hear the wife of the one that lost her husband being willing to give mercy even to the other side. And that's why we are at much more peace than a radical left. The radical left is not happy. That's why they act in violence. That's why they're on social media trying to destroy our lives, because they're just unhappy people. They're insecure in themselves, and that gets poured out by trying to destroy others. That's because when you live in that realm, there is no peace and joy. But we on the right have learned that by giving mercy and giving grace, we don't give free rent space to people that doesn't deserve it in our mind and in our heart and our spirit. And so forgiveness doesn't just help the other side, it helps us, it sets us free. And that's the difference between the radical left and the right. We believe in mercy and forgiveness. They believe in absolute destruction. And yet they call us the biggest, the hateful ones. They call us the racists. They call us the ones that are enacting injustice and acting injustice upon them. But I want to talk about the conservative reprobates on the right that are trying to use this for a grifter's paradise. Now, on the radical left, we did have a problem. I talked about that in previous episodes, that the radical left began to lie to us. Jimmy Kimmel lost his job because of it, because he can't get ratings, but he lost his job because he lies to the people and says that it was a far right extremist killing the lesser far right, that it was a MAGA, far right MAGA person killing the lesser MAGA, because he was not spilling out enough talking points of the right, which, I began to talk about how the far right does not engrave in the bullets things that support furries and anti-fascist statements to kill people on the lesser right, which goes counterintuitive to everything they say about the so-called fascists on the right, which makes absolutely no sense. And they knew they were lying to us, but they become so accustomed to lying to us that they think they can get away with it, and they think their networks are going to allow it. But you can see that the networks are even happen to be capitalist, even though they're pushing socialistic ideas, because when they can't make the money to justify the wages, they got to let them go. Just ask Stephen Colbert, and now you can ask Jimmy Kimmel. But the left had lied to us so much, even especially under the previous administration, lying Joe Biden and Calamity Kami Harris with Dr. Flip Flop Fauci and all these lying governors, and all these lying so-called experts and scientists, and the Russian hoax and all of these lies that they pushed over and over again. Hunter Biden's laptop theory, and all these lies that they pushed to us, that Joe Biden was more fit than ever. He's running marathons, doing backflips, doing push-ups. I mean, he's doing great until he goes out on the debate floor and he looks like a dead corpse, because I guess he didn't get the drugs from Hunter Biden to prop him up. Just joking, maybe. And so they lied to us over and over again, to the point that we question everything. And yes, because they did not give the JFK files right away, because the Epstein stuff like that, it does further questioning, to the point that there's some people question whether the earth is round or is flat, or whether we've been to the moon or not. I mean, they're questioning everything. And to the point that it's even becoming dangerous, that now there are people that are pro Hamas and pro Hezbollah that want to say that Israel's committing the genocide, because now they're saying 9/11 has nothing to do with radical jihadists. It has to do everything with former President George W. Bush. And so the jihadists had nothing to do with it. So now they're the good guys, and Israel's the bad guys. America's completely the bad guys, and we can support those that say death to America and death to Israel. And they flip it all upside down with radical conspiracy theories. Now, I'm not saying that we can't question things about 9/11 or whatever. That's fine. But to totally flip the script altogether and say that radical jihadists had nothing to do with it, This is insane. We're questioning everything to the point that we're becoming like the postmodernists, that we're becoming deconstructionists. We are destroying everything. That's what we had a problem with the postmodernists doing. They were deconstructing everything, questioning everything till they deconstructed everything. They questioned genders to the point that you couldn't tell a boy they were a boy and a girl they were girl because they questioned everything. And now on the right, we're beginning to question everything till we begin to deconstruct things and we can't find any truth as well. And because of that, it has left an ability for some conservative reprobates to be grifters on the right, trying to get clickbaits and trying to get likes and try to drum up a following. I mean, I don't think I'm talking about Candace Owens or anything, or some of the other ones that are doing this. She just happens to be the one really doing it. These are the ones that saying that President Trump has been the need to uh, Benjamin Netanyahu. He's Bibi's puppet, and that APAC is, controlling all the politicians, and that we should ban APAC because we got to stop the genocide. Even though the radical left has lobbyists too, Act Blue and Open Society, and they're dumping in all types of money into radical leftist politicians that's trying to destroy Israel. But yet we don't talk about that. We only talk about APAC as if they're the only lobbyist group that's in the game. There's all kinds of lobbyist group, and they're opposing one another, and they're trying to save themselves. If you had the money and you knew you could use money so that you could try to create safety for your nation, you would do it too. But yet we're only talking about APAC. We don't talk about the ones on the left because it's all an agenda to destroy Israel. That's all this is. It's just an agenda to destroy Israel. And now there are reprobate conservatives joining league with the radical left that sides with those that say death to America and death to Israel. And they are using this for their own advantage. And they're even using Charlie Kirk's death to their own advantage. They're, and I'm going to tell you, this is dangerous because when you start when you start saying that we need to have regime change in Israel before we overthrow Hamas, now you have people that are coming out rewriting history and they're trying to make Winston Churchill the villain. And there's even people going to YouTube channels where now you can get Adolf Hitler's speeches and AI in English. You get Joseph Stalin. You can get uh, I love history, so I was listening to Lenin, I was listening to Stalin, I listened to all of them because I want to actually understand them a little bit better and how can we resist evil? Because if we don't know history, we're at danger of letting it repeat itself again. And yet you can go on and you can see even in all of the comment section that there are those that saying Adolf Hitler was exterminating the Jews because he knew how dangerous the Jews would be and what they were going to do and what they were going to do to their nation. This is exactly what the reprobate conservatives on the right, the grifters, are doing right now. And now they're even using Charlie Kirk's death, one, Candace Owens in particular, using Charlie Kirk's death to promote her own conspiracy theories. You see, there's a game that she plays. She begins to insinuate that Israel was behind the death of Charlie Kirk, but because she doesn't blatantly say it, when you say that she was saying that Israel was behind the death of Charlie Kirk, she can step back and go, "That's not what I said." Because she didn't outright say it, but you go back and you look at it, she's insinuating that. But because she doesn't blatantly say it, she can say, "I never said that." You see, she has become a clever grifter and she knows how to play the game. She knows how to say things without saying it. So then when you try to pin her down for saying it, she can say, "I never said that at all." And so there's a clear insinuation that Israel is behind all of this, as if Israel was trying to assassinate Charlie Kirk, who has been very, very much a friend to Israel. Now, yes, there does seem to be a moment where Charlie Kirk was having a problem because he defends free speech, and there's people that are donors to Turning Point USA, and there were some that were really coming out and speaking against Israel. Well, if you don't agree with that, you might not donate money. And Charlie Kirk was having an issue or expressing an issue there, but there is absolutely no sign that Charlie Kirk became anti Israel at all, that he just turned his back on Israel altogether. I don't see any sign of that. But the problem is, I'm not going to try to step into the mind and heart of Charlie Kirk to act like I know, and I don't think they should either. But yet they act like they know exactly what Charlie Kirk, and even Candace Owens was even trying to express that Charlie Kirk was coming to the Catholic faith, and he was making a turn on Israel, is what she was insinuating, and even insinuating as if Israel was behind the death of Charlie Kirk. And then she she does her investigative work by getting all of these videos off of social media, because we know social media never never paints a picture that's not true. There's never conspiracy theories on social media, right? And in today's AI world, there's no AI. I'm seeing all these AI photos that is taking celebrities hugging Charlie Kirk's dad. It's the most inhumane, nasty thing. But yes, let's do our investigative work off social media videos. Do you realize on social media there was those that were even claiming that this was a inside hit job, and there was a man with a hat that touched his hat and rubbed his nose or whatever, had a camera. Um, and they were saying that he was a part of this inside hit job, and that man was actually Charlie Kirk's spiritual mentor and a dear friend to him. And so there was people claiming that he was on the inside of this. And when you go back, you look at the video, you hear what he said. It's absolutely insane. But they were saying that he was a part of the inside hit job. And even Candace Owens is even insinuating that this could have been an inside hit job for those from Turning Point USA, because there was things going on. Look, you can't run a business without there being internal issues. There's internal issues inside of every business, inside of every institution, inside of every cabinet. There's always internal issues. I am a married man. I married the love of my wife. She is my best friend. And guess what? There's internal issues in our relationship with one another. That's called life. If you're looking for internal issues, you're going to find internal issues in every where there's any amount of group of people. You're always going to find internal issues. But she's trying to claim, or excuse me, she's trying to insinuate that this was an inside hit job, and she's grabbing all these videos from her fans that are going to social media, giving her these videos. And there was a man that was standing up on a rock, and he had a camera, or he had his phone out, and they're like, well, everything's going wild and crazy, and this man's on the phone just standing there on the rock. And I wouldn't be acting that way. You don't know how you would be acting. You've never been in a situation like that. You don't know how you're going to act under that certain under that type of wild, crazy, unexpected event. None of us know how we're going to act. We don't know how we're going to act until we're in that very moment. That's when we know how we're going to act. And yet, that was a part of Turning Point USA. And what he was on the phone, he said, with the other people at Turning Point USA. They're trying to communicate because they're in this crazy deal. And then he goes back to the tent where Charlie Kirk was at. He moves the chair, yes. And then he grabs the video camera that was behind Charlie Kirk, and he apparently pulls the SD card out, which he said, because he wanted to make sure that that SD card was protected so he could hand it over to the feds. He could hand it over to the authorities so they would have that video footage, that nobody would take that camera, nobody would take that, and he could hand it over. Seems logical, seems reasonable to me, but she makes a big old deal out of this as if he was a part of the inside of that. And that man has fear. That man has concern because he doesn't have protection, and he's worried about the general public because of the craziness of this day. And then you have Candace Owens out there saying things like that. And then she says that when he went back, he moved the chair, grabbed the camera, that he's messing with the crime scene. And so she is like saying, that's an absolute no no. You're messing with the crime scene. And then she turns around, go listen to her episode. Then she turns around and says that he should not have handed it over to the feds because we don't trust the feds. No, that's a no no. We don't trust the feds. Instead of handing the SD card over to the feds, instead of giving them the video footage, you should have gave me the video footage. Instead of giving those that are investigating, that actually are the authorities investigating into it, no, you should give it to Candace Owens so she can ask all of her fans for more money so she can raise the money to do her own investigation, which I'm sure would be grabbing a bunch of videos off social media. And so, and by the way, you're saying that you're tampering with the crime scene, but then you're promoting him taking the SD card, taking the video footage, not giving it to the authorities, but giving it to you instead. Makes a lot of sense. And so there are grifters on the right that are trying to use this. And the moment Charlie Kirk passes, here she is out there trying to turn it because she's mad at Benjamin Netanyahu. She's mad at Bibi coming out and giving honor to Charlie Kirk. I mean, think about this. Charlie Kirk was so powerful that you have a leader of another nation that is giving honor to the man. Can you just give the moment of honor to the man? Can you let world leaders give honor to the man? I mean, how many of us can say that we would have a world leader that would call up and give honor to us? It's quite an amazing thing. Unless we're jealous, then maybe we would act that way. But yet she says that Bibi was completely wrong by saying Charlie Kirk was very friendly and a friend to him, and that Charlie Kirk was very friendly to Israel. Charlie Kirk talked about his greatest memory with his wife was going to Israel, walking in the footsteps of Jesus, going over there, being a part of that. And so she immediately wanted to demonize Benjamin Netanyahu and said that he should have never came out and said that. And as a matter of fact, she goes on talking about how other people shouldn't be talking about Charlie Kirk and trying to use him while she's trying to use him and while she's trying to use his death to take advantage of the moment and to begin to speak on his behalf because his voice is no longer here. And then even Charlie Kirk's own pastor came out and requested, asked Candace Owens to please stop. Please let us at least bury him the rest. Please be a friend. A friend loveth at all times. Please let us bury him the rest. And she comes out vile and vicious against Charlie Kirk's pastor and claims that he needs to just go back to being a pastor and I'm being the real friend because they are lying to us and that I am the one that's doing the true investigation because the feds are lying to us. This is an inside hit job allegedly, or this might, I don't know, maybe Israel's behind it. No, somebody within Turning Point USA. There's all types of things. It can't be this assassin. It can't be this young man that put the bullet in the neck of Charlie Kirk. There's got to be more to the story. And so we're being lied to. And so I'm the real friend by talking about it, not letting it go and investigating into the matter. When you have the pastor saying, let us just honor the man, let us put him to rest first. But she couldn't do that. And she comes out and viciously attacks him and claims that he's the one that's wrong and he's the one that's evil and she's the one that's right. These are the grifters that are taking advantage of the moment. And it's tragic and it's sad because we got radical leftists that lie to us all the time. Then we got conservative reprobates that are doing the exact same. You got radical leftists that will say whatever they can for social media control and power and media control and power. They'll sell their soul, as I said in the previous episode, for media control. And then you have conservative reprobate grifters that do the exact same. That goes out there and they say, not only buy my merch, but also pay me money so I can investigate into this because we know all the feds are liars. And then goes on this crazy, absolute, insane rant that says, she's asked if she's going to go to the celebration and she acts like there's only going to be a few people speaking. There's more than a few people speaking. And she says, well, I could just buy a ticket because she wasn't invited. It looks like she wasn't invited. It looks like nobody wanted her there. Maybe there's a reason for that. And maybe because it seems like Candace Owens doesn't have any long-term friends. It seems like all of her friends, she turns on them. It seems like if you send a text message to her, it might just be on one of her podcasts someday, turning on you, as she's turned on many, Dave Rubin and Jordan Peterson and other ones. She is completely turned on because I look at a person, I want to know, have you had friends for a while? Because that tells a lot about you. And so she's out there grifting, asking for money, and then she says, "We can't trust the feds, and I'm not going. I'm not going to the celebration. Why would I go to the celebration? Because we know this is a Fed operation. We know the feds are operating it. We know Charlie Kirk was, he was close to the feds, and this is a Fed operation. And I've been talking about the feds, so why would I go there? Maybe something to happen to me." She doesn't blatantly say it. She doesn't blatantly say those things. She's learned how to play the game. She learned how to be a manipulator before the camera to try to manipulate young people and to believe in this thing, which is causing people to become so anti Israel that they are beginning to flip the whole script upside down. She has learned how to play the game. She is an absolute grifter. I used to respect her, especially when she wrote her book Blacked Out. Now, I'm not going to say she's 100% wrong all the time, but that's the problem. Anytime she's a percentage right, she can use that as the very mask to hide all of her agenda behind that, exactly like the radical left does. That's why the radical left says things like, BLM, Black Lives Matter, because we all agree Black Lives Matter, as all lives matter. But then they use that as a mask, so they hide all their hidden Marxist agenda and then take your money and buy stuff for it and not even help Black communities. And now we have those on the right that's doing the same thing. Even Officer Tatum, who is a friend of Owens, had to come out and disagree with her. Finally, had to come out and say something. That, as far as I know, didn't name her explicitly, but everybody knew who he was talking about. And so she says, "Oh, no, I'm not going to go because this is a Fed operation. I've been speaking against the Fed." And she insinuates as if she's going to be completely in danger. "Oh, no, I can't show up. They might do a hit job on me. They might kill me. They might assassinate me there. Why would I ever show up to that?" And so what has happened is she has learned that there are many people that don't trust the government, that, that, that the government had lied to us so much, and they called us conspiracy theorists, that usually conspiracy theory becomes conspiracy fact in about 8 months. But now the problem is that has opened up and paved the path for grifters on the right to use that to actually spread real conspiracy theories, to the point that they're making it hard to even know what to believe. And so now they are siding with those that hate our country, that hate the West. And it's so, what's so inhumane about to say about your friend, that on the day they're celebrating the life of Charlie Kirk in such a beautiful way, such a magnificent way, you're going to go and say that you're going to celebrate by going with Kanye West? And she said that because of all of Kanye West's statements that are anti-Israel and all of the criticism he's getting about that. And she continually wants to defend that. And that's what she says. She says, "I'm not going there. I'm going to go with Kanye West." The problem I have is there's so many people that are buying, there's young people that are buying into it. There's young people that are buying into her lies, and they're getting on board with that. And may I tell you, I believe it's only a matter of time. She's going to find out that it might get you short-term gain, but it's going to cost you in the long run. Just ask Jimmy Kimmel, just ask Stephen Colbert. And I believe the grifters on the right that want to buy into that, they only got a limited time and it's going to expire. But there are some voices that have stood the test of time. There's Mark Levin's. There's Mark Levin's. Rush Limbaugh stood the test of time. Glenn Beck went through a hardship, but ended up coming back. You know why? Because they've been consistent. They've been consistent, even when at times when they had opposition, they were consistent. You see what people are really going to want? They're going to want consistency, because eventually liars are going to be shown. They're going to be revealed. Grifters are going to end up falling eventually on their own sort of lies. So here on the Revealed Radio Network, we're not looking for short-term gain at long-term expense. We want to be consistent with what we believe. We are unapologetically pro-American, but we are America first, but we are not America only isolationists. We do believe in a powerful America, but a powerful America also helps others. We believe in God. We believe in Jesus. We believe in the Bible. We believe in the Constitution. We believe in meritocracy. We believe and our rights, our inalienable rights, are given to us by our Creator God, not like Tim Kaine, who's worried about natural rights given from God, that wants to create a humanistic society. And neither are we trying to grift and lie to you so we can try to get more subscribers. We just simply want to tell you the truth as we see it. And even if everybody begins to buy in a lie, we're going to try to be the last beacon of hope and truth to expose the lies. That's why we're called the Revealed Radio Network. The revealed truth and the revealed lies. Please reconsider. If you are buying in to that propaganda, please reconsider. That's not true conservatism. As a matter of fact, Candace Owens has even said, has become opposition of Trump. We're not saying Trump's perfect. What else was there to vote for? I like Trump. But even if he didn't, if you're on the right, if you believe in God, you believe in principles of the Bible, who else were you going to vote for? Calamity Connie Harris? America, I love you. Let's defeat the lies. God bless you.